In this edition of India Revival Mission, we will talk about India's real estate sector, the impact of coronavirus pandemic and what lies ahead. Are there any signs of revival during the festive season? I'm Hina Gambhir, and joining us on India Revival Mission this week is Sri Kant, Chief General Manager, Real Estate Housing Business Unit, State Bank of India. We have with us Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, Co-Founder and Managing Director, Hiranandani Group, Sanjay Dutt, Chairman, FICCI Real Estate Committee. He's also MD and CEO, Tata Realty and Infrastructure. And Mr. Anshuman Magazine, Co-Chair, CII Real Estate Committee, Chairman and CEO, India, Southeast Asia, Middle East and Africa, CBRE. Thank you very much, all of you gentlemen, for joining us here on this special broadcast. Let me begin this discussion with you, Mr. Hiranandani. Tell us, how has coronavirus impacted the real estate sector?
Well, Hina, to tell you, I never imagined that real estate could suffer so much after 2.5 years of demonetization, GST, IL&FS catastrophe, and so on. I thought we had a good year in 2020 till the pandemic landed. The pandemic actually destructed the industry tremendously, beyond imagination. And even after the migrant labor left the site, it was kind of devastating to see that even the physical people, the poorest of poor, migrant labor were also affected. So it had actually devastated the industry. And for the couple of months, till the revival has now come in the last 30, 45 days, we were in quite a lot of difficulty across the board. But last 30 days, 45 days, I would consider as a revival period, where we have seen certain things happening which has improved. Number one, the workers have come back to the site. So almost 50% of all the migrant laborers who moved away came back. That's a positive side. Number two, there has been a revival of demand, especially among the ready apartments have certainly seen a good amount of sales. Under construction has also seen an improvement. And number three, the biggest bonus of it all has been the stamp duty correction done by Maharashtra government, bringing down from 5% to 2%, a 3% reduction. So a 5% for GST if it is ready, plus 3% of stamp duty, plus whatever terms and conditions given. And of course, Hina, I forgot, the interest rate is down to 6.9, the lowest ever. So I think all this compounded, and for affordable housing, a 3% subvention. Great story that real estate is creeping back. But the word is creeping back, not really flying back. But the good news is that it has started to recover, and positive signs are definitely there in the industry, which is positive. And also that home loans are also being distributed during this COVID period. So I'm very happy, and thanks to our Chief General Manager sitting over here representing State Bank of India and the other financial institutions, there has been a good story from all of them of funding and financing the home loan segment in a very aggressive sort of way. So all this has brought about what I may say the beginnings of the revival of the real estate story, and very positive.
Very interesting. In fact, you've started this discussion on a positive note, and you're telling us you are seeing some signs of recovery. Before I go across to my other guests to get a sense of how the real estate sector is looking like in other parts of the country, let's quickly go across to Mr. Sri Kant. Have you actually seen people coming out, queuing up to take loans, especially for homes? Has it started happening as the sentiment is being presented by Mr. Hiranandani?
Yes, I fully agree with Mr. Niranjan ji, and there has been good uptick, and there has been great rebound by the real estate, and the demands in home loan, it has grown up like anything. Till July it was subdued, but from August and September was the best month so far till date. There has been good uptick. And people are, there is a good inquiry. If we take the data of the various credit bureau also, there has been almost 114% inquiry compared to YOI for all the players, all the banks, HFCs put together. For State Bank, particularly on YOY basis for the month of September, we have grown by almost 30% compared to last year. So all put together, there is a growth uptick there and good rebound by all the players. And people are coming, as Mr. Niranjan ji has rightly said. One is because of the low interest rate. Second, maybe the reduction in stamp duty in Maharashtra and certain pockets of the country. And the builders, they are also offering some discounts. The property prices have come down. And there is a great, what should I say, the great demand from the people, the great belief due to the pandemic. There is a great realization that one should own home. And RBI, the regulator and the government, they've taken many measures, all put together. The regulator, the government, the industry, the various agencies like CREDAI and NAREDCO and banks all put together, all have contributed to the good demand in the real estate sector.
Okay. Mr. Anshuman Magazine, what about other parts of the country? Are you seeing similar kind of sentiment in, in regions like Delhi, NCR, Ahmedabad, parts of Chennai, etc.?
See, first of all, the real estate market, primarily the large part is still confined to Delhi, NCR, Mumbai and Bangalore. They are, if you look at, residential, office, any segment, these are the largest markets in India. However, of course, there's Pune, Chennai, Hyderabad, Calcutta, also the other next tier which sees movement, but always the impact is always the hardest from these three major cities, and even the revival earlier, the early revival is happening in these three cities. However, the advantage of some of the smaller cities are that if you look at the real estate cost or the residential supply, the price point it comes at is lower. And so we are seeing slowly markets like Pune or even Chennai, Hyderabad are showing a sign of recovery. But the larger activity would still remain in Bangalore, Mumbai, NCR. And the reason for that also is not the size. Plus, all these cities have suburbs where the major supply is, and those are the suburbs which are seeing the activity level. But no doubt, the major, I would say, activity will be still in the major markets.
Okay. Mr. Sanjay Dutt, I want to understand from you now, the uncertainty is still there. People have been losing jobs and many buyers are trying to delay their purchase decisions. So what is really fueling this positive sentiment? Are actual transactions taking place on the ground, or is it the number of searches that have gone up that is giving this kind of a confidence to people in the real estate sector that things have started looking up?
Let me decipher for you. In the first 6 months, you are right, there was a lot of insecurity, a lot of bad news. It was an unknown. Nobody knew what you're going through with. But as the market went through the ups and downs, and you're right, job losses, insecurities, depression, you name it, all of us were struggling, doctors, frontline workers. But as things started going through, people realized that there are job opportunities. People who had jobs, they didn't lose jobs. They gained confidence. A lot of non-resident Indians came to India, and we saw NRIs showing interest in investing. People who were staying in rented houses, they went through their insecurities. They started buying their homes because they said, I may not have a job, but let me have a roof on my head. I don't want to be dependent on some society during COVID, and because if I become COVID negative, they may actually throw me out. All those factors led to some traction in the demand side. And then started coming the data points from the industry. Little bit of green shoot in A sector, followed by second, third, and all of that captured very well by the equity markets, if you know, in anticipation of the results. The numbers are there on the wall. And then the initiatives by the government, by the states, and like Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani said, all important decision-making criteria of buying a home, lower EMI, revival of the economy. Some actually got COVID-19 and recovered, and the recovery rate being very strong and growing. Lowest mortality rate in the world. Prices from developers all-time low and attractive. Various payment schemes given by developers to actually enable you to take a decision. Now, this is one segment. What you're referring to is an affordable segment. But let us not forget, there are some rich people. They are buying second homes. They want to buy Lonavala, they want to buy Kasoli, they want to buy Goa because they suddenly feel they want to live their life, they want to be away from the city because cities have COVID, very high numbers. So we have 3 of our projects in these markets, and our sales jumped. So this was very fascinating. The other observation I made was, and of course Mr. Niranjan also said about the stamp duty reduction by Maharashtra, game changer. In just 1 week, we saw a spike. And that spike is now being maintained consistently. And actually, we think with the package from the government on festive seasons, on the stimulus on the economy, will further add to this momentum. So we think this is a sustainable story, unless, of course, something tragically goes wrong, which none of us can anticipate. So I think these were the 3 drivers which make the results on the ground real. And therefore, the numbers sir mentioned about the stamp duty revenue. So who would have thought that Maharashtra, by lowering stamp duty, will lose revenue? They have actually gained revenue. And they're set to gain even more in the times to come. So it's a lesson for all the states in the country to be smart, to stimulate the economy, to attract the buyer, lower the taxes, lower the interest rates, make the loans attractive. I'm referring to, of course, SBI and many others who have lowered the interest rate. And all of these factors have really contributed, in my opinion.
Okay, very interesting. Mr. Sri Kant, I want to ask you about the recent announcement that the RBI had made. Risk weights were rationalized and they were linked to loan-to-value ratios for loans up to March 2022. What does it mean for somebody who's looking to take a loan to buy a dream home? How much do you think this measure specifically, the recent one, can boost demand in the festival season?
I think this will act as a good booster because RBI has rationalized the risk weighted, as you rightly said. Now it is linked to the LTV. Up to 80%, the risk weight will be 35%, and beyond 80%, it will be 50%. So especially the higher loans, where earlier the risk weight was 50%, that has been reduced to now 35%. So that's a good reduction, and the lot of capital will be freed by each bank, and this benefit will definitely, banks are analyzing, and they are going to pass on to the borrowers by way of interest rate reduction in especially high value loans. And that will add to the positive sentiments of the festival period, because already festival period there are various interest rate concessions, processing fee concessions by all the banks individually and collectively also. So if they pass on this risk weight reduction benefit, that will add to the positive sentiment, and there will be further growth uptick in the market.
Mr. Hiranandani, was it the pent-up demand that we are seeing actually coming to the front because of a reduction in interest rates, or do you think now perhaps the worst is over for this sector?
I said that 9 months ago in January, that the worst is over, and I was horribly wrong. So the future is not ours to say, "Ke sera, what will be." But I can only assure you that but for any setback in the pandemic to go into some horribly worse course, the present situation, people have got used to the idea. So what is really happening is that, like for instance, work from home. People just need bigger homes. What can they do? The husband and wife both are working from home. The children are studying from home. Obviously, the quality of the home, the requirement of internet, the facilities over there are wanted. And as correctly put by Mr. Sanjay Dutt, there are people who can actually afford it. So if you can afford it, and previously you agreed to stay in a smaller house because you thought it's not necessary to have a bigger house, suddenly the requirement came up and shot through the roof. So you're really desperately looking for upgrading your house and moving in it. And then thanks to Mr. Sri Kant, State Bank of India, we find that they have even bridge loans to help people to upgrade themselves. So we have a lot of facilities which are now available in terms of financial possibilities of doing those kind of activities. And number two, what you said and what even Anshuman magazine said, that entire atmosphere has changed. A figure of confidence has come back because people are now used to the idea this is COVID is not likely to go, but the economy is coming back to normal. So yes, we are scared and petrified of COVID. I am too. But having said that, it doesn't disturb my working position. So my work goes on, construction is going on, people are buying, finance is available. So the world moves on. So yes, we must be very careful about COVID and the healthcare and other things associated with it. But the business is going to go normal, and I'm very proactive. Number two, let me add one more point.
Yes.
We've had interactions with Maharashtra government, and they are looking forward to give further benefits to the real estate industry in terms of what the Deepak Parekh committee has recommended in terms of structural changes of the price of the FSI, TDR, and other costs which are coming up. The government is also considering all those things which had been reported by the Deepak Parekh committee to them. Okay. The stamp duty rates was just one of them, and other things are being considered. So I think Maharashtra is looking at that part of it in order to do it. And the last, which you mentioned, the central government with the demand position where they have given these benefits to all the central government employees, I'm sure by Diwali they'll give it to you also. Why should it be only to central government employees? Salaried people
well, we
should
have
also.
heard, at least from our sources in the government, that another stimulus is something that probably the government is working on. So maybe something will come out ahead of the festival season. That's what we are hoping for. But Mr. Anshuman magazine, now Maharashtra and the people of Maharashtra seem to be pretty happy with the kind of measures that the government has taken, especially the stamp duty reduction. What about other parts of the country? I mean, are there talks of a similar kind of a move in Delhi, NCR and other key markets?
See, certainly what happens is, I'm sure there are talks. What happens is when one state does it, the others are kind of, I wouldn't say forced to do it, but hopefully inspired to do it. The other thing I just want to say, whilst we talk about all the positive what is happening, and I strongly believe India is in a better position. I look at many markets that on a recovery path, India would be one of the earlier countries to recover. But we should not forget that the sword of COVID-19 is still hanging on our neck. These are very uncertain times. And we don't know if the COVID virus infection will come back even in more forcefully. So we should still be very cautious. The fact also is that whilst the market has seen early signs of recovery, which is fantastic, and there is inherent demand for residential, and all the measures taken by the government to stimulate demand are good, but I think more needs to be done because the consumption has to increase. We do as a country have to ensure that there are jobs so that people can pay the EMIs and housing, because people have lost jobs in the past. And there is uncertainty which impacts the sentiment to invest or buy anything, because people are not sure if they may have a job in the next 5-6 months' time. So all those should be kept in mind. But the good part is, like I mentioned, that India is in a good position. One of the big advantages India would have is that we have skilled manpower at lower cost. And I expect offshoring to increase out of the US, which will create more jobs in India, which will again create demand. And, and if the government is looking at creating more fiscal space so that they would have more money to improve liquidity in the market space. So there's still lots to be done. The good part is, in spite of COVID, we are in a much better space than many other countries. And there is a sign of recovery, but at the same time, we are far from happy days, I would say.
All right. I give the last word to Mr. Sanjay Dutt. Any pain point that you want to highlight for our viewers in this sector that probably the government, center or some specific state governments can address?
You know, one of the major challenges for us has been when as a sector goes to the government with certain measures that can make a difference to the sector and the economy, they take a lot of time. So if you are agile and if you respond to certain measures, the way the RBI did this time, which was fabulous, and I think we were pleasantly surprised, if the same way the state government had taken the initiatives to support the sector, I think we would have been in much better positions across the country. Just the way Maharashtra government, for example, showed it. And I'm not saying that some of the other state governments did not do. There were some.
Right.
But I wish there was a collective effort. So that's one takeaway, in my opinion. Also, I think this country and the whole world got exposed that how vulnerable we are and how ill-prepared we are. And I think this is a big takeaway for everybody. So, and we know that such viruses, this will not be the first time. I hope it's the only time, but
Yes.
such things can come. Are we really prepared as a country? Is our infrastructure really prepared? We saw, even now, so much of negligence by people who are exposed and not taking precautions. Culturally, our civil habits, are they really conducive for the world that we are living in today? So I think these are takeaways for us, and we should ponder on that very carefully, including the government.
In fact, this crisis, as Prime Minister Modi has been saying, should be seen as an opportunity as well. But the good news is that at least the real estate sector is seeing many green shoots, and perhaps it's going to be a good festive season, at least with this sector. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here on India Revival Mission.